Hmm. All right.
Everyone can see the screen?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. Right to live and right to die with dignity is a fundamental right to all. On behalf of Group 12, I would like to greet a very good morning to one and all present here. Today, we are going to present to you about euthanasia. Our group members are namely Sohan Banerjee, Somali Mondol, Ritika Rani, Saurabh Nayak, Suresh Kumar, Vaishnavi Kumar, and Vinit Kumar. Our presentation revolves around the subcontents like introduction, types, history, laws in India regarding euthanasia, international laws regarding euthanasia, all religion views, advantages and disadvantages, cases studies, conclusion, and references. Now I would like to invite Somili for giving us an introduction to euthanasia and its types.
The term euthanasia was derived from the Greek words eu, meaning well, and thanatos, meaning death. During the period, an emphasis began to be placed on a balance between physical fitness and mental well being. Illness was viewed as a bothersome affliction, and an individual could seek the approval of the state to commit suicide. If approval was granted, the person was assisted by the magistrates who supplied the poison. It is a complex process and involves weighing many factors. Local laws, someone's physical and mental health, and their personal beliefs and wishes all play a very important role. Next, we move on to the types of euthanasia. Active euthanasia. Purposely giving someone a lethal dose of a sedative is considered active euthanasia. It is the intentional, immediate ending of a human life which happens at the patient's request. The aim of the person who obeys it is to directly fulfill the patient's concern about dying. Passive euthanasia. It is described as limiting life sustaining treatments so that a person passes more quickly. When the used measures neither improve the patient's condition nor promise a longer life with an acceptable quality of life, the desire for this type of euthanasia arises. The decision of this type of euthanasia is up to the patient himself. Voluntary euthanasia. If a person expressly requests to be killed, it is considered as an act of voluntary euthanasia. The person must give their full consent and demonstrate that they fully understand what will happen. Non voluntary euthanasia. When someone else makes the decision to end someone's life, it is considered as non voluntary euthanasia. A close family member usually makes the decision. This is generally done when a living being is unable to understand the decision between life and death. This category can include old and sick people, as well as severely disabled or terminally ill infants. Involuntary euthanasia. Involuntary euthanasia, in the sense of conduct, was designed to end the life of someone who desires to go on living but is hardly worthy of debate. Next, we have the history, which will be told by Sohan.
Now I would like to put the spotlight on history of euthanasia in India. As we all know, India is a country of diverse opinions. Still, India has seen acceptance of the concept of euthanasia throughout its history. First, on May 11, 2005, Supreme Court took note of PIL of NGO Common Cause seeking a not to allow terminally ill persons to execute a life will for passive euthanasia. On January 16, 2006, Supreme Court allows Delhi Medical Council to intervene and asks it to file documents on passive euthanasia. On January 31st, 2007, Supreme Court asks all its parties to file documents regarding euthanasia. Law Commission suggests a draft bill on passive euthanasia and says such pleas made to be High Court, which should be decided after taking expert views on April 28, 2006. On February 11, 2014, DMC filed a copy of Proceedings of International Workshop for policy statement on euthanasia in India, and Supreme Court reserves its verdict. On February 25, 2014, Supreme Court cites inconsistencies in the earlier verdicts of passive euthanasia, including the one given in the Aruna Shanbag case, and refers the PIL to Constitutional Bench. On March 9, 2018, Supreme Court recognizes living will made by terminally ill patients for passive euthanasia and lays down the guidelines and procedures to be adopted for it. Like these, there are several other examples which can be found in the throughout the timeline of Indian history. Now I would like to request Vinny to give us the information about euthanasia and its laws in India.
Who filed the petition? The NGO Common Cause had filed a petition in the Supreme Court saying that the way citizens have been given the right to live under Article 21 of the Constitution, they also have the right to die. Common Cause's lawyer Prashant Bhushan said that people suffering from serious illness should be entitled to make a living will. In particular, he is advocating for pacific euthanasia. Passive euthanasia is legal in India under strict guidelines since March 2018. Patient must consent through a living will and must be either terminally ill or in a vegetative state. The Supreme Court specified two irreversible conditions to permit passive euthanasia law in its 2011 law. First, the brain dead for whom the ventilator can be switched off. Second, those in a persistent vegetative state for whom the feed can be tempered out and pain managing palliatives be added, according to laid down international specification. Court verdict on euthanasia. The decision was made as a part of the verdict in a case involving Aruna Sonbag, who had been in a PVS until her death in 2015. At present, there is no proposal to enact legislation on this subject, and the judgment of the Supreme Court is binding on all. Before euthanasia law legal in India, there exists the possibility signing a living against medical advice, which transferred from the physician to the patient the full responsibility for the discontinuation of his living therapies. Now I will hand over to Suresh for further discussion.
Hey guys, today Euthanasia have claimed a seat in the international community. You can find nations both against and for it. As the mindset of people are evolving, so are the international laws. Let us now deep dive defining the international laws. According to 6.1 of the International Covenant of Civil and Politician Rights, states every human being has the inherent right to life. This right shall be protected by law. No one shall be arbitrarily deprived of his life. According to Article 6.1 of the Convention on the Rights of Child, states that every child has the inherent right to life and makes no mention of a right to death. According to Article 10 of the Convention on the Right of Person with Disabilities, safeguard against rather than recognizes a right to death by stating states parties reaffirm that every human being has the inherent right to life and shall take all necessary measures to ensure its effective enjoyment by persons with disabilities on an equal basis with others. Rather than recognizing a right to die, UN territories implicitly rejected this notion by including strong protection for the sick, disabled, and elderly, as these people are most often affected by the legalization of euthanasia and assisted suicide. For example, Article 23 of the CRC recognizes that a mentally or physically disabled child should enjoy a full and decent life in conditions which ensure dignity, promote self-reliance, and facilitate the child's active participation in the community. As we can see, status of euthanasia in several countries. Some countries has already accepted this and some are gradually accepting. Just like in Netherlands, euthanasia and physician-assisted suicide are not punishable. And in even Switzerland also permitted physician-assisted suicide. whereas in UK, Spain, Austria, and in many European countries, it is illegal yet. Several countries are debating whether or not to legalize assisted suicide, euthanasia, or both. In assisted suicide, a patient take the lethal drug themselves, whereas in euthanasia, physician administer it. In 2012, more than 5,000 patients died after assisted suicide or euthanasia in states where these practices are permitted. Euthanasia or assisted suicide have been legal in the Netherlands and Belgium since 2002, whereas assisted suicide is permitted in Switzerland since 1918, Oregon since 1997, Montana and Washington since 2009, Vermont since 2013. Data from countries that allow both practice show that euthanasia occurs more frequently. Assisted suicide represents 7.8% of hastened death cases in the Netherlands and 2% in Belgium. Although euthanasia rates have been substantially increases in past years, as we can see in the graph. Now I will hand over to Ritika, who will be discussing about religious views on euthanasia.
Religious beliefs and practices play a significant role in the lives of people who are living with a life limiting condition. There are some viewpoints of the different faith traditions on death with dignity. Hinduism. Most Hindus would say that a doctor should not accept a patient's request for death since this will cause the soul and body to be separated at an unnatural time. The result will damage the karma of both doctor and patient. Other Hindus believe that it breaches the teaching of ahimsa. However, some Hindus would say that helping to end a painful life, a person is performing a good deed and fulfilling their moral obligations. Islamic view. Muslims are against physician assisted dying. They believe that all human life is sacred because it is given by Allah and that Allah chooses how long each person will live. Islamic Center of Southern California states that since we did not create ourselves, we do not own our bodies. Attempting to kill oneself is a crime in Islam as well as a grave sin. Judaism view. The Union of Orthodox Jewish Congregations has been heavily involved in efforts in both Congress and the court to restrict physician assisted death. In 2000, Rabbi David Blech, Jewish law professor at Yeshiva University's Rabbinical Seminary and law professor at Yeshiva's Cardogo Law School, stated that Judaism played the highest importance on palliation of pain, particularly in the case of terminal patients, and that Judaism teaches that suicide is an offense against the deity who is the author of the life. Buddhist view. They are not unanimous in their view of physician assisted dying. Suicide was used as a political weapon by Buddhist monks during the Vietnam War. In Buddhism, the way life ends has a profound impact on the way the new reincarnated life will begin. So, a person's state of mind at the time of death is important. Their thoughts should be selfless and enlightened, free of anger, hate, or fear. Christian view. The official position of the Roman Catholic Church is strict. The killing of a human being, even by an act of omission to eliminate suffering, violates divine law and offends the dignity of the human. However, many Catholics, particularly in the United States, cite various quotations by Pope Benedict XVI as a source for continued disagreement and controversy regarding these controversial issues. Now, Saurabh will tell you about the advantages and disadvantages of euthanasia.
Euthanasia or assisted suicide is often deemed beneficial to the one suffering. Its advocates believe that ending a person's unstoppable pain is a great act of mercy. Mm, To be further clear, let's take a look at some of the advantages of euthanasia. First one is pain relief. Euthanasia can reduce or prevent human suffering by relieving people who are in extreme pain. Advocates argue that forcing people to suffer against their will is wrong, and allowing them to end their suffering is morally justified. Next is more control over final decision in life. Euthanasia provides more control over the final decision of life, which reduces the emotional and physical toll for everyone involved. It is the kind of relief for the person in pain as well as the rest of the loved ones. The next one is less caregiver guilt. People suffering from terminal illness feel like they are a burden to their loved ones, which can create reaction that causes relationship challenge. The next one is free of medical funds. Euthanasia could free of medical funds with the improvement in technology. People today spend a lot in high-tech healthcare, even in hopeless cases. And the last one is death is inevitable. One way or another, death is bound to happen. Even if people with terminal disease don't choose to take advantages of euthanasia, there is a big chance that they will pass away shortly. Then the disadvantages of euthanasia. Euthanasia raises numerous ethical as well as practical arguments. People believe in the sanctity of life and choosing to end it ourselves is viewed as playing against the flow of nature. Below are some points against euthanasia. First one is de-evolution of human life. There is a belief that every life on earth is precious. But when you choose to end our own life, it might seem its value is undetermined. Although euthanasia is different from suicide. The second one is issue with content. The doctor should be willing to provide the option for euthanasia to happen. There are times when doctors are unwilling to take part in this process, and some doctors who believe that quality of death and quality of life are both equally important. And the last one is deviation from promised result. There have been cases where people who took legal prescription as part of euthanasia process regain their consciousness. When the process does not work as intended, a huge problem arises. Now I am hand over to Vaishnavi, who will discuss about the case study of euthanasia.
Over the years, many petitions have been filed in demand of legalizing euthanasia in India. One such case sparked this conversation was Aruna Shangbag's case. In Aruna Shangbag's case, Supreme Court laid down guidelines for passive euthanasia. Aruna was a nurse in Mumbai's King's Edward Memorial Hospital, where she was sexually abused by a ward boy on November 27, 1973. During the extreme violent assault, the ward boy tied a dog chain around Aruna's neck, due to which the oxygen supply to her brain was cut off, leaving her in a permanent vegetative state. On 24 January 2011, after Shangbag has been in the state for over 31 years, the Supreme Court responded to the appeal of euthanasia filed by the journalist Pinky Virani, setting up a medical panel to examine her. The court rejected the petition on 7th March 2011. However, in its landmark opinion, it allowed passive euthanasia in India. Aruna died of pneumonia on 18th May 2015 after being in a persistent vegetative state for nearly 42 years. In the next case, the case was filed for legalization of active euthanasia. A senior citizen couple, Mr. and Mrs. Narayan, living in the small bylanes of Mumbai, the couple approached the President of India for the approval of active euthanasia for senior citizens who wish to die. Even though the couple does not suffer from any major medical problem, but the fear of falling critically ill or being a burden on someone made them write a petition seeking permission for active euthanasia, stating, "If we have the right to live, we must have the right to die." However, on 9th March 2018, the appeal was rejected by the Supreme Court of India. Now, I will hand over to Somali for the conclusion.
Death cannot be controlled by anyone. It cannot be leashed, nor can one escape it. But to a certain point, if a person can choose how he wants to die, he would gladly do so. Therefore, a person should have a say over his death in this case. Concluding the topic of euthanasia by a quote from the Game of Thrones. It wasn't the wine that killed Robert, nor the boar. The wine slowed him down and the boar ripped him off, but it was your mercy that killed the king.
These are the references where we have taken the data for our presentations. These references are Getty images from where we have downloaded the images. Slide pairs is another reference from where we have taken some of the animated images for this presentation. Wikipedia is the main place where all the informations about the introduction and types have been taken. The journals like Britannica, Indian Expresses, Government Euthanasia and Assisted Suicide and non-resuscitation on request is the times where we have taken the journals, and that's for the references. We would like to end our presentation with a dialogue quote from the film Guzarish.
लाइफ बहुत छोटी है दोस्तों, पर दिल से जियो तो बहुत है. So go on, break the rules, forgive quickly, love truly, and never regret anything that made you smile.
That's it from our side. Hope you liked it. Thank you.